Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I'll be going over 9.5 bulking tips that you haven't heard of before.
So the majority of these gains have come from liquid calories, eating lots of food, and eating calorie dense food and lots of protein. However, I didn't know what I know now, and so here are the tips that I'll be sharing with you in this video.
Alrighty, so tip number 1 is protein layering. Now, protein layering is putting the protein part of the meal at the bottom of the plate or setting it to the side and eating it last. The reason that you'd want to do this is because protein is the most satiating part of the meal. So if you can eat the fats and the carbohydrates first, you'll be able to eat more food quicker and then have the protein last to fill you up. Tip number 2 is going to be eating the correct amount of protein. So you hear a lot of people say, "Oh bro, gotta eat 200 grams of protein. Gotta eat this much protein, gotta eat cow." You don't need to eat that much. The science has shown that you only need to eat 0.7 grams per pound of body weight per day. So that's about 1.5 grams per kilo of your body weight every day, which is actually not that difficult if you think about it logically and you're thinking, okay, what is a good source of protein that I can have in this meal? That is a guideline that should be used for high quality protein, which I'll make a video on in future. But high quality protein is exactly what you think it is. It's meats, yogurts, milks, that type of stuff. I'll make another video on that later. Alrighty, so tip number 3 is going to be switching the large fat content that you have in your bulking diet, because fat's are easiest, calorie dense, switching it to carbohydrates. So the 2 main reasons you want to switch from fats to carbohydrates and why it's worth the effort is because 1, carbohydrates stimulate the release of insulin, which basically signals to your cells to open up and take in the nutrients, to take in the fat, to take in the carbohydrates, which will be turned to glycogen, which I'll get to in a second. But importantly, it signals to your muscle cells to bring in the protein and to turn it into muscle. So that's what you're trying to do by going to the gym. So you need to eat much more carbohydrates and not very much fat. Muscle glycogen is the fuel source that you use when you're lifting weights, so you want that to be as high as possible. I'll do another video on this in future. Muscle glycogen is just how your body stores carbohydrates in the muscle, and this is the main fuel source when you're lifting weights. So if you have lots of muscle glycogen, you'll be able to lift more for longer compared to if you have very little muscle glycogen. So this is tip number 4. This is probably my favorite. It has to do with helping you get extra carbohydrates in your diet. So that is honey. Honey is very easy to eat. It makes everything taste good. You can put it on anything, as I do. And personally, I get one of these squeezy bottles, and with every meal, just squeeze on about 100 grams of honey, and that's an easy 350 calories. You do that 3 times a day. That's an extra 1,000 plus calories. And you just add more or less depending on how much you need, and it's a very easy source of carbohydrates. It doesn't fill you up at all, and it makes whatever you're eating taste nice and sweet. Alrighty, so tip number 4 is to eliminate fiber from your diet. It's probably not the greatest thing for your health, but we're not trying to do that. We're trying to put on weight. It doesn't mean you have to stop eating fruit and veg. What I choose to do is you can get juices, juice the fruit and veg, and then separate the fiber so then you can still get your vitamins and minerals. But by reducing fiber, you'll have so much more space in your stomach, so it'll be much easier to eat your food. So tip number 5 is going to be fluid timing. Fluid timing is basically just reducing the amount of fluid that you consume about 3 hours before you have to have a meal. Another thing you could play around with here is after you've finished a meal, have your fluids, if it's water or fruit juice is one I really like because it's, again, more carbohydrates, which we're trying to eat. So another thing you can play around with is once you've finished your meal, have your fluid, not before, But once you've finished it, have fruit juice again to have more carbohydrates, or water, whatever you want to have. But then you can almost sort of expand the size of your stomach by drinking a little bit more fluid than you'd like to, because that's easier to get down than food, and it'll expand your stomach a little bit. Just make sure that you have enough time between when you have this fluid and your next meal so that you're not full from fluid. Alrighty, tip number 7 is when you have the last meal of your day. So when you're bulking, you're training really hard, your muscles are sore, you need to recover properly. So if you have your last meal of the day and then go straight to sleep, you're not going to be sleeping very well. Alternatively, if you push it back 3-4 hours, you finish a meal and then 4 hours later, then you go to sleep, you'll sleep much better. And also, if it's a smaller meal or you push it back further, you'll wake up in the morning and you'll be starving. So it's that much easier. You wake up starving, you eat a ton of food, and you've halfway through the calories you need to eat for the day. This one is a double whammy, really. Alrighty, so tip number 7 is only eating as much as you need to. It can be tempting to put on the muscle faster and eat tons and tons and tons and tons of food, but that's not sustainable, and you're not actually going to be putting on muscle any faster. Personally, I fell into that last bucket of eating big to get big. Everyone's heard it. It sounds true. It's not, unfortunately, I guess. That would be a nice way to grow faster, but it's not. So what I suggest to do is to aim to gain about 0.4% of your body weight per week. So eating enough to gain 0.4% of your body weight per week won't actually be very much. It'll be a little bit more than if you wanted to stay at the same weight. This makes it much easier, and you can continue this for months and months to slowly gain the weight, which will be predominantly muscle, because you're not eating excessive amounts of food, which would cause you to gain excessive amounts of fat and not that much more muscle. Alrighty, so tip number 8 is going to be having an emergency stash of food. For me personally, this looks like having a block of cheese in the fridge, about 250 grams, honey on standby, I love it, and milk, full cream, full fat milk, and a carton of eggs. If life goes haywire and I've missed 2-3 meals, I haven't eaten all day, I can put those together and easily have about 2,000 calories. Obviously, it's not an ideal situation. I'd rather get it from carbohydrates for the reasons I mentioned earlier, but it does work. Watching something while you eat. It doesn't work for everyone, but play around and see for yourself. Some people eat more if they're watching a TV show while they're eating, or a movie. Some people will eat considerably less. For me, it doesn't make much of a difference, but it might be something that really helps you eat more food, or really hinders you eating more food. So play around with it and find out. Number 10 will be minimizing non-eating actions. So this is stuff like talking, going to the toilet, chores. Okay, so by minimizing non-eating actions like talking or just getting distracted in general with other things because you don't want to eat the food, you'll be able to finish your food faster. By finishing your food faster, you'll give your stomach less time to send signals to your brain saying that you're full, so you can eat a little bit more. Basically, you're not giving enough time for your body to tell your brain that you're full and that you don't need to eat anymore. So you're just kind of bypassing that. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you got something out of it. If you want to see my latest video, click just there and it will be there. Enjoy.